Your Excellency, the former Executive Governor of Niger State and the Chief Servant, Muazu BABANGIDA ALIYU, we want to thank you so much indeed for joining us to discuss some of the salient issues and our country in general. How easy do you think it is for a country such as ours, with the diversity it has, how easy do you think it is to govern a country like Nigeria?
Generally, governance is easy when the political culture has developed to such an extent that people have a common denominator of appreciating what is to be there. In other words, it doesn't matter whether you have religious differences or tribal differences and co, where a common denominator of fairness and justice and other things play, people know what to expect from their governments and from those who govern them. People know what to give to those who govern them. Then you don't have any problem. I think we talk about problems in Nigeria because we have not developed those common denominator, and that people now look at issues in the prism of either religion, their tribes, their region, or where they belong to, or the sect they belong to. Because even among common religion, you will see that there are so many differences in the sectarian arrangement of that religion. So, for me, when I went to Niger State, already I knew, for example, you cannot say this is the typical politician kind of a thing. I was more or less a technocrat that went into politics. So I knew what to do because I have been in governance for such a long time. I have been a civil servant from 1978 up to the time I became a governor. And by the time I went there, I had already gone enough ministries as a permanent secretary at the center of federal, whereby we were able to understand. And at the time I was permanent secretary of Federal Capital Territory, it's really like running a state. So I knew about the importance of security reports. I knew about handling the police and the SSS and other security agencies. I knew that if you don't read your security reports on time and you don't act on time, that the damage will have been done. So, whether it's a lie, whether people say they don't get good security reports, the security report you get, whether it's a lie or not, act. It's better to act than to wait until damage is done. So governance is made more difficult here because of the expectations. When today you are appointed something, people come to you and say, this is your time, you must do this. Or they even say this is their time if they belong to a particular tribe or particular religion or particular sect and things like that. So that is why it is difficult, because there is no standard of measurement to say, have we delivered the services to the people at the right moment? We still seem to be grumbling today. This policy comes before we even understand how it is. Another policy has overtaken it and things like that. And we still have the problem of people not appreciating that education is education. There is no difference between Islamic education and Western education. If you are enlightened, you are enlightened, and you can understand things. Yes, I can give some room to say that because in certain parts of the country Islam arrived first, before the Christian religion, and therefore people associated Western education with Christian religion, and therefore the way they look at issues is slightly different from that. But education is education, and we must pay attention to that. And if you look at those of us who are educated both in terms of Western and, if you will, Eastern education, are very few in the country. Those who have gone to school for whatever grade of school are in fact probably fewer. So the majority of the people are out there, they don't understand what is on the ground. They see leadership only in terms of probably whether they have peace, whether they have progress, whether they have done this or that. And the leaders don't seem to communicate well with the people. So when people talk about difficulty in leadership, for me, I see it more in terms of the leaders who do not understand their people, who have not paid attention to their environment, who do not understand that the moment you serve people right, they will accept you, no matter where you come from.
Is it possible to overcome those barriers that you mentioned? Political divides,
It is.
religion,
Very, very much.
tribal, and so on.
Many countries have gone beyond that level, and the common thing is education. You must force people to go to school, you must force people to learn. At independence, or during the First Republic, there was mass education. There were posters to show you that you need education. I don't know if you remember or if you knew about it, where a picture of a porcupine will be there with a lady who had braided her hair in such a way they would say, the porcupine is better than you if you do not know how to read and write. In other words, urging people to really go out on their own to do it. So if we are able to educate people and we are able to reduce the greed, and I say reduce, I didn't say eliminate, reduce the greed and the thirst of the people for the things that do not belong to them, we'll be able to have a standard. But you see, at the moment, we have a problem whereby a town, a village, or in fact the whole nation, we can't even provide electricity for ourselves. Talk about education. How many places have schools? Talk about industry. Talk about any other thing. You see, people are not dependent on their own, and we are all looking forward to the federal government to give us this and that, which was the problem exacerbated by the fact that we have gotten oil money. So nobody is really paying attention to production because there is money out there that you just dip your hand and share to the people, and they go and do what they are supposed to, what they think they should do to either their states or local government. Our people have not been demanded to do things for themselves. People expect that government should be able to do things for them. And like I said, it is because of the oil money. Now compare again. Before the oil money, what were we doing? You may hear many Nigerians now lamenting about the granite pyramids, about this and that. We were feeding ourselves. During the First Republic, up to some extent, we were not importing food from elsewhere. We were feeding ourselves. But as soon as the oil money came, we started doing everything, and the farmers stopped everything. There is no pyramid now. In fact, some governors now pretend they go and put some planks and put some bags of rice to say they have done a pyramid. No. And we have seen how they have been deceiving people like that. But the pyramid of those days were pyramid of satisfaction, pyramid of production. People have produced granite for export. People have produced food for domestic consumption. But now, we are finding it difficult to do that. So when you level up all these things, education, agriculture, industry, production, if you are able to get some semblance of that, you will find that you don't have to tell me you are Igbo or you are Yoruba or you are Hausa, because at least that we have an average of what you should expect from the society. Let me give you an example. The government of today is doing something about what is called Israel, and there are some interventions here and there, CBN intervention, this. Harmonize it all. Harmonize this intervention and create social welfare and define those who should benefit from it or others. Take, for example, COVID intervention, school feeding. Why are you feeding children in primary schools or whatever schools? Because we are expecting that their parents might not have been able to feed them. Provide social welfare for the parents to feed those children, rather than this haphazard intervention.
Are you saying that the interventions are probably, especially for the school feeding, is it misplaced or not properly structured?
By what has happened, yes, it is. If you remember, the PDP government also tried it in some states. It discovered it was a waste. Now it has stopped. So why did it stop? If it's a good policy, it should have continued. In other words, policies now must be harmonized. Come back to this welfare system and say, these families deserve this kind of thing. And I'm saying it with the background of what I did, which was not much money. In Niger State, we had 274 wards, 25 local governments. What I did, because during the campaign, at least the first part, you give, say, a ministry some money, the ministry can only go this far. If you give local government some money, the money can only go this far. So I said, okay, we have 274 wards. In other words, in my local government, Chanchaga Omena local government, we have 11 wards. Let me give each ward some money to do something. To do something within their wards that people can wake up and say, this was done by us with the support of the government. So I said, every month, the state will give 500,000, the local government will give 500,000. That's 1 million naira. I say, every month, give these 274 local wards 1 million each. Let them decide. We said pick 7 people, 5 men, 2 women. Every ward, there are some retired people that I'm sure will be able to participate. And we did, and we got them. So we'll pay them money and say, we are not going to tell you what to do. Your ward, it's not a big thing. Like I told you, in my ward, which is the state capital, has 11 wards. In your ward, you should be able to know what you want. Do you want to repaint your church or your mosque? Do you want to create a culvert? Whatever it is that you want to do. But I will not pay you next month until you confirm to me what you have done. And if what you are going to do will cost you more than 1 million, I will give you the 1 million. Keep it. Don't do anything. Wait for the next 1 million, because I will have known already that that is what you wanted to do. If you need like 3 million, you wait and collect 3 million and do what you want to do. And believe me, till today, that is one of the things that people remember in Niger State that has been done. Because then there is no word that will wake up and say, the chief servant has not done anything for us. There must be something that has been done either through the government or through the local government or through the ward development projects.
Let me take you back to some of the salient points that you mentioned
Yes.
and related to our emancipation as a country still.
Yeah, we'll be able to build on that.
Are you encouraged by the outcomes of governance in Nigeria in the past 6 years?
No. With what has happened, the insecurity, the economy, and this is more of an international thing, the COVID that has come. In the past 6 years, I think what we have had, the rising expectation that have not been matched by performance. Before the current government came, there were all these hopes of aspiration on the leadership that emerged in 2015. Many people thought there would be enough changes to ameliorate and correct some of our problems. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, this had not come to pass. What we have had, the crisis in terms of security, or the insecurity that has come, has really vitiated whatever good intentions that were supposed to be there. So, in terms of judgment, or in terms of saying, well, am I satisfied? No. And no average Nigerian will be satisfied with what is happening now. You cannot move from Abuja to Kaduna without so much prayer, without fear in your mind. No, nobody will be satisfied. In the northern part, we had to be begging parents, cajoling parents, threatening parents to bring their children to school. And now, children are being abducted from schools. You think many of them, particularly the girl child education, you think it has not suffered? It has suffered. So, what we really need to do is that we must look at the structure of governance. We have been relying on individuals to say this is a good person. This guy will fight corruption. Nigerian leaders is not a function of one person. Yes, you can give direction, but there must be those who are to implement the things. And if those who are to implement do not appreciate or are not in tune with your direction, we will be wasting a lot of time, like what has happened now. The expectation and everything, and it erodes the confidence of the people on governance. Because if they expect this and they get the opposite, then they begin to feel, look, we have no confidence on government and government institutions, and therefore we should fend for ourselves. The moment the society begins to think that way, you are talking of really not instruction this time, but actually a total breakdown.
You know, there is this question that troubles a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they have looked at you when you were in office as one person that really understands how governance should be, what Nigeria really wants, and will perhaps champion that cause in bringing true change in our country. But since after 2015, you have just been really silent.
Yes.
What has been happening to you?
The Emir of Ilorin also said so about last week or last 2 weeks when we met in a program, and he said, Chief Servant, you have been hiding, come up from your hiding. You know about the tide in the affairs of men, the Shakespearean.
The Shakespeare.
Okay. And life is like a yo-yo, up and down. Yes, you have come up, you have done your bit, a time has come for you to go down a little. It's not about a fight to finish, no. I have taken my time to look at what is happening, to be writing a little, and to also assess what has been happening in the country, and to see where, again, we will come about. And it's not totally that one had been silent. It's a redirection of energy in terms of now my party, the PDP, had lost in 2015, which again, that's another discussion for another time of why we lost and whether we really lost. Like the 2019 election, whether PDP lost or other things that could come into play. And these are some of the things, like your first question, that creates disunity in a country. People want to see fairness. People want to see clean break from the past, from those who think that if they are in an election, they must win. No. Once you enter election, the probability is one. You either win or you lose. And you must accept that. So my silence is more to do, now you don't talk to a deaf. You only talk to somebody who will listen to you. Many in governance are aware we are around. They are aware our colleagues governors are aware that former governors are around. And they could learn one or two things from us. But you don't jump because you have done well in your community. You jump to be telling people what they must do when they do not ask you. There is a process of how, when I was a governor, that I used to organize an annual event whereby former governors of Niger State, former president that we have had, will sit down together and look at issues on the ground and see. And in the process, I learn a lot. During Salah celebration and co, we meet like that. During Christmas, we meet like that to make sure that we learn from one another. But what I discovered now is that some people have developed like an enmity, or there is a kind of lack of cordial relationship between former and the current people on the ground. To some extent that many of them think that, oh, let's go and hide them in prison, and a lot of issues raised that should not have been raised in the first place. Pick any state apart from few that have no that problem, particularly in the northern states, where the relationship of former governor and current governor is not very smooth. So, silence sometimes is important to be able to learn more and understand where you have made some mistakes or missteps and where you can correct them and things like that. But like I said, it's only change of direction. People.
Are you saying that you have more to offer politically?
Oh, by God. By God. I have had 5, 6 years of learning. One has become more mature. One has learned a lot of things that, and even after I stopped, I went from one school to the other. I went to Harvard again, went to Oxford University for leadership courses and understanding what needs to be done. And appreciating that you cannot do it alone, no matter how good you are. That you need good people around you. That in our country, you need good ministers. You ensure that you relate very well with the governors in the state. You ensure you relate with all the leaders, whether it is human rights group or it is religious groups or whatever. You need to give them audience so that they can understand, and you need to communicate with the people. But a situation where we have to be begging a leader to talk, tell us this, it's not good for this country. More so, a country with all the variables that we have talked about that are not so good in terms of enhancing good governance. So, yes, I have a lot to offer, but then my approach to politics is slightly different. In terms of saying, I don't go out to tell people that I'm the best, that I must do this, I must do that. All the time that I have had a chance to govern, either as a National Assembly member or as a governor, I had this opportunity that people really drafted me. In 1983, I was drafted to go to the House of Representatives. In 2007, I was drafted to go and be a governor. So, I'm waiting on God and the people of Nigeria to see what happens, what role God would decide to give me.
How is your party, the PDP in Niger State, preparing and positioning itself for the elections ahead?
At the moment, because of the problems we have a caretaker committee. We have executive committee. I am the leader of the party in the state by the recognition of what one has contributed both to the development of the party in the state and to the position that one has held as a former governor. So we have this arrangement of the leader of the state. We woke up one day and discovered that some people who have been in leadership position in Niger State since 1998 had been there, and they have become lords now. They don't consult, they become arrogant, and they think that, in fact, they are thinking of retiring anybody who is in opposition to their positions. And so, we came to our Congress, and they said, oh, they have agreed to bring everybody back as it was. I said, no. We have had elections that everybody thought we should win. We have had money Even when I was governor, we did not spend the kind of money that we spent in 2019 for the election, for the presidential election in Niger State. What did we get with all that expenditure, or with all that money that went to Niger State? We got 2-1 defeat. So we said, review it. In fact, lucky for me, I did not come too strong on the matter. The executive committee of the state set up a committee to look at what has happened in 2019. And in every page, the indictment was on those who led that particular, or who expended those money. We agreed, because of the money, that every polling unit in Niger State will have 170,000 naira. But we discovered some had 100,000, some 50, in fact, some none. So we said, no, there must be elective Congress, not not affirmative Congress. Affirmative Congress will require that nobody is opposed. So therefore, because the Constitution requires that we will go and vote, we just vote for voting's sake because no opposition. I said, no, this time there must be proper election. When those groups discovered that they will be defeated in a proper electoral Congress, they brought in all the thugs. To the extent I was told from Kano, some of them came, they brought thugs. Because we had somebody who probably worked in the PDP in Kano State there. They brought thugs from Minatown, from other places, and scuttled that Congress. And kept on insisting that they must be the leaders. That was the genesis of the so-called suspension, and they did it even wrongly. My ward in our Constitution, my ward has a right to suspend me for whatever reason, but they must have given me a query to say, because of these reasons, we are considering this action on you. But that did not happen, and they went and got some few people in the local government, some of them who are not even members of their own ward executive, to sign a statement. That letter was not written to me. The letter that said I was suspended was not written to me. It was written to a caretaker chairman who was being informed that I had been suspended for this reason. One, they cooked up the reason of that I was against Jonathan. Everybody knew the principle of why I was against Jonathan. And if tomorrow any leader also decides not to honor agreement, I will be willing to oppose him, particularly when I have the details like I did on that of the Jonathan period. I was then the chairman of Northern Governors Forum, and we took a principled position. All the PDP governors took a principled position to say that yes, we allow Jonathan to run for 2011 election with the view that he will not run for 2015 election. And he agreed. And all the leaders, some of them are dead now, all the leaders were there. And he was the one who even told people that agreement. So how can you now use it against me, that I opposed somebody? And even that's why I was talking to you about, did we really lose the 2015 election, or were we afraid? If I have the moral responsibility to contest, I believe that if Jonathan felt really that he had the moral responsibility to contest, he would not have considered that election the way he did.
Why?
Because morally, he didn't feel that it was proper for him to have contested it. So for him, it's like, okay, good riddance to a bad rubbish. The party itself did not help matters. It printed only one form during the primaries. So how can you now wake up? Then, please, my brother, if I have given the government or the party the opposition party. First, I had the rumor of 250. Now they turned it to 450. I think they're adopting Goebbels' approach. Will these same people now decide to take me to FCC that for 3 or 4 years I've been in court? Is it possible to do that? No. But because they wanted to find a way to say, oh, chief servant is refusing us to continue this way, let's also get rid of him. And I'm aware of some of the plots and some of the plans and what. But since I have a clean mind to this approach, I am not against any one of them. But that politics is not about you alone. And that is part of the problem that we have now. Politics is about the people. And if you have served 20 years, 20-something years, you cannot continue. If you are good, people will still remember that, oh, this guy had been serving. But then you have become arrogant, you have become a thief, and then you want to continue. How can?
I'm not sure if you've heard about this, but the ruling party, the APC, has been trying to woo you to be part of the APC. Will you ever consider joining the APC?
The time I would have joined APC had passed, because many people thought that after I led the G7 and after all the hullabaloo of breakaway party and this and that, and I still remain, and 5 of my members, 5 governors, all decided to go and join APC. That should have been the time I should have joined, because now what do I do there? So, think for yourself.
Okay, let's flip the coin now,
Yeah.
and look at the issue of the challenges, rather, of insecurity.
Yeah.
You did mention some part of it while you were giving in your opening statements, but very recently we had an incident in Niger State where boys were abducted from their school. Do you think that could have been averted?
For me, I know it would not have happened, but, well, it's a past tense, so it's something that I could now assess. I was always proactive in terms of security. And that's why I never had that kind of problem. And I'm sure somebody somewhere was aware that there was a plan to go to that school. But for me, through all the other means, not only relying on the formal DSS police reports, every emirate has another security outlet in terms of its structure. From the emirate, from the emir himself, and we have in Niger State 8 emirates, some with 5 local government, in fact, about 2 or 3 with one local government. But they have what we call district heads, village heads, all these Angua and what have you that you have. And they report to one another. In the olden days, or in the 60s, even when a stranger comes into town, he reports first either to the district head or to the village head for him to know. And then the village head will now tell the emir, we have received some guests from so places. We have interviewed them, and we believe, for example, in my town, we had what we call Nasarawa and Limawa, and then later on things developed. After the interview, they will determine which area of the town to send you, depending on the nature of your vocation. So, I believe that the emirate system there also in that particular town will have been aware. And you know, it's not a new thing, particularly for the Rafi local government. Rafi and Shiroro have suffered a lot, probably as a result of that forest that we share with both Kaduna and Zamfara. But during my time, what we did was to make sure that Katsina, Kaduna, Zamfara, and Niger, that we were always meeting as governors that are concerned with that particular forest. Because the problem is, if Zamfara governor does anything to the bandits or to whatever it is that you call them, the kidnappers, then they would move into Niger. So we needed at that time to act together rather than one acting and then pushing them to a particular direction.
Is that the reason why we had the incident first in Katsina State before having it in Niger State?
Most likely, most likely. But you see, I think, for me, what I discovered is that now the bandits, after they have gotten the beauty of getting ransom, they discovered that abducting individuals was not giving the money as much as they did. So they needed the government attention. And I think that's why they were going to institutions. And they were going to institutions. There is a lot of story about what happened in Katsina, how much they were paid, how much was taken out. When Baraje, there may be local bandits. Insecurity will always be there with the people, but if you are very vigilant, you will always nip it in the bud. But Baraje, our former Abubakar Kawu Baraje, our former chairman of PDP, who went to APC and then came back to PDP, said that they brought some people from other places with a view to maybe thinking that Jonathan would not have overpower, with a view to making life more difficult for the people. But now that Jonathan handed over power, I think whoever brought them should have negotiated or paid them back to go back to their country. So, what is it that a governor can do or a president can do? Is to be proactive, is to equip and pay the security agents their dues. You cannot refuse to pay the ration. You cannot refuse to be friendly to them, because when they need certain things, for example, like I told you about vehicles, about communication gadgets, about repairing where they even stay. I visited their offices. And for the DSS in Niger, I made sure that whatever they asked, after I confirmed is good for them, that I would do it, because they are part and parcel. They were sent to Niger State to help me and to help the people of the state. So I needed to have them to be able to do their own job. I wouldn't want to see a policeman running away from an insecure environment because he's been threatened. No.
What are the quick steps you would advise the government in power now stop the kidnappings, the banditry, especially in the northern part of the country?
Two, we need to establish this. I talked to you about Abubakar Kawu Baraje's statement. If it is so, I'm sure they were invited through association, because there is a tradition for the Fulani Kolanot thing. So if that is the case, pay them and let them go back to their countries. That's one. Two, there are copycats, those who have also started doing it because money comes in. Believe me, if the government is serious, it can nip it in the bud within the next 3 weeks. How? Equip properly the agencies. If we don't have the satellites that will show us where the insurgents are in our forest, please, let's relate with those who have the satellite. Because every day a satellite can show you the movement of the people and the movement of other things. And when Cameron wrote his book and said, oh, he offered assistance on the Boko Haram, but he was told to wait until the election. And after the election, nobody. He was using, in Britain, but he was using technology to know what is happening in your country. So we can use that technology. Within 3 weeks, if we are serious, we can get rid of these people. Or at least we can reduce their menace on the society. And with that reduction, even in those days, it's not that we had no security issues, but they were not in that magnitude that had stopped even the economic and political activities of people. Many people could not go to farm because of that. Many children could not go to school because of that. And now when you add COVID to it, our economy is really down. There were rumors that we have started printing money. I don't know whether it's true or not. But if you go to the market and see the value of what the Naira can purchase, then you will begin to wonder whether that is not true or not.
We would like to thank you so much indeed for sparing time to talk with us here on Control TV. We do appreciate you.
Believe me, the gratitude is mine, and I wish Control TV all the best in the world. Like we listen to Al Jazeera and Co. I hope one day we'll sit back and say, yes, I was aware when it started.
Thank you so much indeed, Your Excellency. We shall get there.
Thank you.